This is probably an episode for you if you've been in therapy for a while and you're just spinning your wheels and talking now.
People get stuck in the intellectualizing of their problems. That person who is so hyper aware shouldn't be analyzing it anymore and should actually just be going out into the real world and having those things push up against them.
Now, I don't want to say there's no place for therapy here in the world, because there are a lot of good reasons to do that inner work with a very seasoned professional. However, it isn't a substitute, in my opinion, for real life. Okay, you guys, I've been thinking about something really hard the last few weeks, months. So I trained as a psychologist. I practiced as a psychologist for a long time, and before I, went into consulting. And I was a client of many different psychologists and therapists for, decades, really dedicated to doing my own inner work and therapy. And I'm starting to ask myself lots of hard questions about healing. Like, what really is the way to heal? And it has occurred to me in recent weeks that the best way to quote unquote heal, right? Face our hard things, our limitations, our demons, all the things, is to get a good understanding of what they are, but then to go and live your life. Like, do the things. Like, I used to think, okay, I've got to work on these things and then I could be in a relationship, or I need to figure out this thing and then I could start the perfect business, or, all of those, like, I'll do this work and then I can do the thing. And I'm finding that all the learning is happening in all the triggering that happens in the real things.
Yeah.
And now I don't want to say there's no place for therapy here in the world, because there are a lot of good reasons to do that inner work with a very seasoned, skilled, licensed professional. However, it isn't a substitute, in my opinion, for real life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've had a lot of friends bring this up recently too, of like, I think I'm done with therapy. Like, I've gone every single week for like 4 years, and all I do is, vomit out everything I'm thinking about, and then we talk about it and I leave, and I know what's wrong with me, but nothing's changing. And I think you make such a good point of like, self-awareness, we all need it. And a lot of people are walking around really unregulated, unaware of their emotions or what's running the show, or that there could even be any underlying currents like driving how they react. But you get to a point where like talking isn't doing anything anymore. And in fact, it's sort of like giving you this like scapegoat, like, okay, I dumped out my stuff at therapy, like time to just go back and live my life. But like the action's not happening. So I feel like this is maybe a trend that a lot of people are feeling.
I think it's part of like the embodiment of it. There's so many different layers to it, right? So there's the layer of someone who's doesn't really, isn't immersed in therapeutic things online, doesn't look at that sort of stuff, has avoided their feelings like the plague, like hasn't really looked at, couldn't even name their traumas. They like really push everything down, right? I'm thinking like my dad, who like that is just not in his repertoire. Someone like that could get a lot of benefits out of a therapeutic setting, especially even just talk therapy, not even going deep into somatics or anything like that yet. But then I feel like there's another subset of people who have been in therapy. They're so self-aware. They're constantly like, oh my gosh, I found this new thing and this is my attachment style and this is how I showed up like this. And they're so in the depths and the emotional awareness of who they are. And it's like those people get stuck in the intellectualizing of their problems instead of the feeling, processing, changing of behavior. And that, I think, is what you're talking to, Sarah, where it's like you actually, that person who is so hyper aware of all of the things shouldn't be analyzing it anymore and should actually just be going out into the real world and having those things push up against them and making new choices. It's like, there's such a spectrum to it, but I think the people who are not at all versed in anything therapeutic, talk therapy is an excellent place for them to start.
Yeah. Yes. I think there's a clear need for therapy in lots and lots of circumstances. But my point, because I'll get a lot of flack for saying this, if we don't talk about the caveat. But
Mhm.
it's not the substitute. It's not really how we actually heal, because I
Mm.
believe fundamentally that we heal in relationships.
Mhm.
And the wellness culture has, I think, got us into this space where healing happens in like some kind of bubble, in some kind of
Mm.
cocoon, that you find yourself in a big bubble bath with, the 13 supplements and the 12-step ritual, and all by yourself, all
Mm.
alone, right? And then when you've done that, when you feel all better, then you can reconnect with other people. There's a place for solitude for sure, but I just really think the real work happens in all the circumstances and the people that come into our lives that show us who we are, challenge us, right? That, in my experience, that's where all the learning is happening right now. I have to say, it's happening in the doing,
Mhm.
then I
Yeah.
can figure out how to be.
It's kind of like if you were studying a book on how to play the piano, but you never practiced. And now so many people have memorized how to play piano, but like they've never sat down to play.
Yeah.
And we were texting about this, Sarah, that like you can't heal a relationship issue about like partnership by yourself. Like you can get the awareness, but then you actually have to have a new relationship to put it into practice and to make a new choice, to be like, okay, usually like when you lean in, I lean out. I'm going to try leaning in when you lean in and see what happens, and we can have all the awareness in the world that like we keep choosing emotionally unavailable people or whatever it is. But once it's conscious, like it's on us to make a new choice.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like that's kind of where people get hung up. Even in the dating world, it's like now people go on dates and they're like, oh, I have daddy issues. I'm avoidant. I'm this. And now we're like faking this vulnerability by like sharing all the things we know, but we're not actually getting vulnerable by like getting together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Talking about vulnerability is different than actually being vulnerable.
That's a huge point.
You guys watch
No.
Love is Blind?
I've
No.
watched a few episodes of it, not like any recent season, I don't think, but I did watch a few episodes with my daughter. I found it to be so interesting.
Daniel and I love it. It's honestly just really interesting people watching, like to understand their psychology, what they feel comfortable sharing. And you can see even in the pods, like when one person says something, how the other person's reacting, like their body language, what they're saying. So many times people in the pods, like they'll say that they're a safe space and they're there for them and they hear them, but their body language looks like they're just reciting a script. And then when
Yeah.
they get out and they're in real life, that is the case. The person
Yeah.
like doesn't have that embodied. But then there are times when like someone's sharing really vulnerably about a trauma that's happened to them and the other person's sitting there like moving through it with them, like even through, can't see each other, but is like crying or like distraught and like experiencing that with them as they're telling it. So it's so interesting watching the couples in there. And then we're like, oh, I think these two may be trauma bonding because I don't think they're actually the right fit. And then other couples, you're like, oh, they're so like, what a good pairing. I'm so cheering them on. It's fascinating. It's a good psychological watch.
Well, I think all of those dating shows or coupling shows can illuminate a lot of patterns that we, get ourselves stuck in. The only way to practice whether you're really stuck in it is to go, try to bond with somebody and see what happens. What
So
is your
have
attachment
you
style
been
really?
doing that? Have
Have
you
I
been
been doing
doing
that?
that, Sarah?
I have been doing that, and it's been fascinating to me. I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself. I talk a lot about that work. And I do think there are some people who are more likely to learn all their life lessons that they're meant to learn. I've been told this astrologically that I'm just a person who's meant to be in relationship, and it's how I will learn all the most important things I need to learn.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So that's in my chart in big ways. Don't ask me what house and that part I don't remember.
Don't ask questions. It's
I don't
just true.
retain those details, but that's what I was told, and it resonated really powerfully for me. Post divorce, I was really feeling like, okay, these are the list of things that I really need to work on. Well, that I was told I needed to work on them for many years, but that I decided, yes, these are true, and I need to work on these, and I'll work on them, and then when I'm done working on them, then I'll meet someone, right?
Mm.
Then I'll be ready. And all of a sudden this human shows up in my life, and I'm sort of like, I didn't think this was going to happen. And yet it's so divinely timed, because it's showing me all the things I actually do need to sit with, to, yes, heal from, and I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't see those things in any other way. No therapeutic relationship, no therapist would give me the real-time data that just trying to be in relationship and loving someone is giving me.
Yeah.
Parenting does a lot of the same thing if you really open your eyes, right? Is your kids become a little mirror for you often, or the dynamics in your home, if you're willing to step back and take a look at them, that become this space in which you can really learn all these things. But we're seeing these trends where fewer and fewer people go to offices to work. So we can all work remotely, and we never have to really be in each other's spaces. People are waiting to partner, marry, procreate longer and longer. So the demands of like family life and how that can trigger all of our stuff. I mean, parenting brings up a ton of things. Mothering is a great way to have somebody hold up a mirror to you and what you really should be thinking more about. I mean, we don't have to spend any time with people who disagree with us if we don't want to, right? We can turn them off, ignore them completely, block them. And our world is so divided that, that's almost easier, because the division is so great, right? You're either A or Z. It's really hard to find anybody who's, in the middle. I think it's only reinforcing this kind of unfortunate dynamic of all of us kind of staying in our bubble, trying to be our best selves. But for who? How do you know you're really your best self if you're not in the company of other people to test it, to be it with them?
One thing I was thinking about you as you were sharing your experience in this relationship is, I feel like what you're learning this time is not more of what you need to work on, but it's actually that you have less to work on than you thought. And people do that for us as well. Be like, wait, there's actually nothing wrong with you. It's like way easier to be in your head and feel like, here's my checklist of problems to solve. And, we were talking the other day about the difference between self-improvement coming from self-love or self-hate. And like, as you learn to like be in the energy of love with somebody else, and love is just more present, like then all of the things that are in discordant with that just sort of dissolve, right? And there is less stuff, that's wrong with you or to work on. And so that seems like a really cool lesson for people to take too.
It's really powerful. I got really like almost emotional when you said it, Grace, because that is something I'm seeing. Now I recognize I'm not for everyone. I'm realizing also that I'm way healthier, just than I give myself credit for. It's so fascinating to be spending time with somebody who has not been living in this wellness culture world, like I have been paying such close attention to it. He said things like, well, yeah, I went to therapy, during and after my divorce, because I really thought I should. And, I thought it was really helpful. But in the end, I realized that it was just nice to have someone to talk to about these things. But I was really okay. I was really happy. I really felt good about my decision, and I was really feeling good about my life and my relationships. And I didn't need to be there. Like, to know there are just grounded, kind, thoughtful, intentional, super emotionally healthy humans out there that actually are just that way, just by being who they are, and not because they've spent 3 decades in therapy trying to become that. And it resonates so much with some of the things that Peter Crone, challenged me to think about. The sort of like, no, you actually are love. You are infinite love at your core. We just have to get all the limiting beliefs that you've taken on, over your lifetime. We just gotta work through those so we can get back to the freedom that is your birthright.
One thing I was thinking, Sarah, too, when you were talking about like, and then, someone showed up, you had this laundry list of things that you were working through, and then someone just showed up. What did that opt-in process look like? Because I've been talking to a lot of people who are either like hoping to have a partner or, wanting more friends or calling that in or something. But when it comes time to get out of their shell, get out of their comfort zone, how do you actually opt in? Like very tangibly, like what are the social interactions you say yes to? Do you download the dating app? Like what are the ways that you are actually communicating back to the world? I actually would like to receive, because I was even thinking I've been wanting this one position hire to fill at TBM, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and I was like, I'm just gonna write down ideally what I would want and just have it in my list, and we'll see what happens. And I've gotten like 4 DMs from people this week, like just cold outreaching, who were like, it fit this position. And I thought to myself, I could have just said, no, I won't take this casual convo with them. But I did. I had to opt in. It wasn't like, yes, they dropped into my life, but I also had to opt in to say, I'm going to have the call with you and like see it through the conversation, even though I'm not like the hiring manager, just to like get the spark going. So, like, what was your opt in for these things?
Well, I knew I wanted to date. Like I knew I wanted to have someone or a couple someones, probably a couple someones to have just fun with, right? Fun, travel, great sex, whatever it was. But I had been told by 2 astrologers that I consulted with that I was going to, like, the timing of it was going to be like, off in the future, like that kind of karmic fated relationship, and, I was kind of like, okay, I'll wait, of course I'm going to wait. Cause what other choice do I have? Right. When it's not going to happen until it's meant to happen. But simultaneously, I also, when we were in Aspen together in January, I don't know if I've talked about this, and I spent some time journaling on January 1st. You guys were all asleep, and I was up at the crack, like 5 o'clock in the morning. It was dark for hours before anyone else was awake. And I decided to spend some time journaling. Actually, Zoe and I had talked about this. And I decided to journal from a different perspective than what I normally would. Normally, I would sit down and be like, I'm so frustrated, or I'm so unhappy about, or God, I really wish this was different. That kind of a journal, like a dump. This time I sat down and I imagined it was January 1st, 2026. And I wrote about all how the year had unfolded and all the things that had transpired in my work, in my parenting, for my children individually, in my like nuclear family. And then I wrote about the human that I wanted to be with me on January 1st, 2026. So it was like, this year we have accomplished, the kids are, you guys are doing so well, or whatever it was, our health is, all the things, like just sort of putting it out there in the universe, all the things I wanted to be true. And the last paragraph was, you are. And I was writing about him. And it was about 8 bullet points. And then I made coffee. And I tucked that away. And then I just sat with, if this human ever shows up, it'll be when it's supposed to be. Well, 5 months later, I meet this person. Now, what happened in the meantime? Yeah, I was on a couple dating apps. I was set up on a couple dates by friends. I was kind of always looking, like there was a part of me that was just looking at people and imagining, men and women, honestly, because that's sort of the way I am. And I was just open. I think that was that's how do you opt in? I wanted it. I was open to it. I said yes all the time. Even if I didn't think it was going to be like perfect, I would say yes. So I'd go to the coffee or go to the dinner.
I think it's that energetic openness. When you're trying to call anything in, like energetically opening for business is like, there's a real difference between being opened and closed.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to open, but you're just not open. Like there's a lot of people out there who are dating or calling in partnership or friendship or new work, but they either don't have the space because like there's other relationships clogging it up, or like they're actually shut down and like not open to receiving, or they're like so much overgivers they don't even have the capacity to like hold anything that's going to come in. And I give people this advice all the time when it comes to starting their business. Like, you need to energetically open your doors for business and be like, I'm available for hire. These are my services. This is what I can do. Even if you're not emailing anyone or doing anything, like, that's what creates that like openness where someone does pop into your inbox, or where you do have the conversation, because you're like being really clear about what your intentions are with your energy, which is like getting you on the same frequency where that thing exists. So I think that's a really good thing to check in with people. Like, are they actually energetically open for what they think that they want?
I would have said I was energetically open, but I had so much that I was holding on to that was not meant for me, that there was no space for the things that were meant for me. I mean, I was holding on to so much, all the anger and resentment and the bitterness and all those things. They're just clouding everything.
How did you move through it?
How did I move through what? The letting
anger,
go?
resentment.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of it was just being present to it. For a long time, I pretended like it didn't exist. That's not a good way to move through it, right? That just makes it get louder, right? I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I said I'm not angry. I'm angry. Yeah. Well, what's actually underneath that anger is sadness. I'm really, really sad. Whoa. Whew. I'm sad. I'm going to cry for a couple days now. That's how I moved through it. Oh, wait. Hi, sadness. You're not so scary anymore. Yeah. Come sit next to me. Let's take a walk. That's how I moved through it. And I did that with all kinds of emotions and feelings and situations, Wow, really, really sucks to get divorced a second time. Ooh, this is big. Oh, where's big sitting in me? Oh, it's in my gut. Wow, it feels like a rock in my gut. Maybe I won't have a snack this time. And I'll just sit with the rock, Oh, wow, when you do that, it's amazing how things start to settle, doesn't feel so scary anymore. That's how I moved through it. I mean, and I just did that kind of systematically with some support, right? Of a really good therapist and a coach and some somatic work and all the tools. But then in order to really, I think, test it to see, like, did it work? And I had to go out and like be in relationship with people.
I think another way to describe what you're talking about is allowing, right? Like, you allowed things to move through in the same way that you would allow love into your life. You would allow new opportunities. And if you think about like, just like the coming and going of things, like if you're resisting anger, then you just are in resistance. So other things can't penetrate resistance either,
Right.
And so you almost just started the like moving through to make space, and like got into that energy of like, allow things to come. I allow things to move through me, as opposed to like constant, like in the bunker, like fighting things off all the time.
I like that a lot, Grace. Allowing. Yeah. Allowing all kinds of things. Yeah, this is scary. I still am going to do it. I'm just going to take this fear with me. It's just fear. It's just a feeling. All right, let's go. We get so paralyzed by, I think, emotions sometimes, and I think there's a lot of encouragement, like, what are you fearful of? Here's a 14-step program, 6 months to work through your fear. Well, when my kids are really anxious about something, and they have to leave for school, I don't say, oh, I'm sorry, you're anxious? Don't go to school today. Oh my gosh, honey, you're anxious? Stay home. No, I say, take your anxiety to school today. Put it in your back pocket and ask it what it has to tell you. You'll be okay. Everybody else in the building's anxious too. You're in good company. Have a great day. And I'm not making light of it, but it really is just a feeling.
It's so interesting because as you're talking, I mean, obviously you're trained in this as well, but there's such a language to this stuff, and understanding and relation to the emotions, to the experiences that I do think the therapeutic models give us. And that's why it's really the both and, because it's like you have to have that baseline. You have to understand what it means to feel through an emotion. You have to understand how to even label what anxiety feels like somatically in your body. Like, oh, you're like feeling really jittery and your stomach hurts and butterflies and there's a lump in your throat and you can't sit still. Oh, you're probably anxious. Okay, like let's sit with that. What does that mean? So it's almost like that that constant wheel of, okay, become the student and then become the teacher and go out and like embody and live the things and then become the student again and then become the teacher again versus just staying stuck as the student and that's also giving so much of your power away to the modalities, the tools, the experts. It's like you have to become the expert of you, of your body, your anatomy, your feelings, your emotions. And that will come little by little over time. And then that is where you can really like reclaim that power by going out into the world.
Mm-hmm. So this is probably an episode for you if you've been in therapy for a while and you're just spinning your wheels and talking now.
Yeah.
This is a good one to come back to and just check yourself. Like maybe therapy is still supportive and maybe it's time to put it into practice, or maybe you can let that go for a while and just focus on your real life and get out of your head and get into your experience.
Yeah. I think that sort of I'll wait till I'm healed way of thinking also gets in the way of finding what we're looking for, because if we're going to wait till we're healed, right? I'll wait till I'm finished, till I feel better, or there's a perfectionistic quality to that, like I'm going to work until it's all done. And then I'll be ready. I think that our expectations are that which we're seeking is also in that state of completion, perfection, it's going to meet this sort of standard. And I mean, if you ask anybody who started a business and was wildly successful, they'll tell you that they failed more than they succeeded, right? That all the learning happened in the failing and the doing and the trying, right? They didn't just like come up with an idea, perfect it in their heads, and then go and execute it. No, the execution is about the trying and the troubleshooting, right? I mean, that's life. And, so we do ourselves a disservice if we think that we're going to be able to avoid all the troubleshooting and the trying and the fits and starts and the failure, right? And the mistakes if we wait till we're ready, done, perfect. And part of the fun of being in a relationship, I find, is the learning that then happens. The like, oh my gosh, I didn't recognize that about myself. You're showing me something that I didn't know. And now in that conversation, I feel closer to you. That's intimacy. Or I'm scared right now. This feels scary. I didn't expect to feel like this so quickly with another human. This feels really vulnerable. That's intimacy. That's relationship. That's what we're really craving, is being able to be that real with another human. Or, you can extrapolate this to more than just relationships. I really believe profoundly, but even in close friendships, right? If there's no vulnerability, what do you have?
Logistics.
Logistics. You have like, want to get coffee on Tuesday, and then you sit together and you talk about other people and you gossip and you whatever, right? You trauma bond.
I know.
This made me think of something, Sarah. So, okay, I can picture a few people in my mind that sort of fit this description, but they have something that they are like, when kind of what we said before. They're like, when I fix this thing, then I'll take that action. Then I'll put myself out there. Then I'll do that. And I'm like, okay. So they could just take the action now, but what is preventing them? Is it fear of being rejected, fear of failure? And sometimes if I really think about the examples I have in my head, it's that they have an aspect of self, whether it's a habit, behavior, or physical descriptor, like they don't like the way they look or something like that. And they're like, if I can fix this thing that I'm ashamed of or not proud of, I want to fix it, because the fear is less of putting themselves out there. It's more how could I possibly put myself out there with full confidence, knowing that I dislike this part of myself so much? I'm so uncomfortable in my own skin this much. Like it's almost like scarier to do that than it is to even connect with the next thing they want to do. So for someone who is struggling with accepting where they are at right now, whether that's in their mind, in their habits, in their body, whatever, what would you say for that person who's like, oh, but I don't want to be seen like this. I need to fix this before I'm seen.
Like so many things come to mind. The first thing that came to mind was if that was one of my kids coming to me, I'd go back to the, let's take anxiety to school. Would you let your fourth grader not go to school because they didn't feel good about X, I weigh too much. I don't like how I look. So I can't go to school. Oh, okay. No, you don't have to go to school. We'll wait to go to school till you lose 20 pounds. No, I mean, any parent who, you'd be like, what? There's always going to be something. I mean, there's always going to be something that you could use as a reason to not allow what's meant for you or to go after what you really want. I mean, there'll be a million somethings. And, I don't know, I feel a little bit emotional imagining somebody, that scenario that you're even describing, Jess, because it just makes me kind of sad because I think our world is full of people who are waiting until they feel perfect, to do the thing. And I can relate quite deeply to that. I think there was a point right as I was turning 50 where I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? F it. We're just going to do the thing. And what changed? I stopped really caring about what other people thought. I stopped caring as much. I still care. Let's be real. Everybody cares. I stopped caring as much. I started viewing life as my teacher. Right? So this is going to be uncomfortable. What do I have to learn? My kids who show up in school and are all anxious. I don't understand anything. I don't know calculus. Well, you're not supposed to know calculus. You're taking calculus, so you learn calculus. You actually aren't supposed to know it before you start the class. Where did we get this message that we were supposed to have it all figured out before we lived our lives? Life is about learning, regardless of your age.
And my big 5,000-foot spiritual view of it all, if we think about us as souls that have come to the planet maybe multiple times, and this time we chose this experience, and for some reason it was interesting for our soul to choose this kind of nose and this kind of hair and this kind of job and this sort of anxiety, knowing that every experience is interesting to the soul and that your soul chose this experience because it's just so perfect for whatever it is you're meant to accomplish here. Like the way that you look, the way that you are, your so-called imperfections or the things that you're good at, they're all perfectly suited in guiding you towards what you're meant to do and what you're meant to contribute. Even the things you're bad at, amazing. They're indicators that that's not your thing, right? The way that you look, incredible. You're meant to look like that to make your biggest impact on the world, or to catch the right person's attention, or to show up with presence, or to overcome some insecurity that's long held in your family history that you can be free of. So if you can get on that spiritual level about it and be incredible, how interesting. I chose this experience on a soul level, and I get this, I get to work with these pieces. It's life is your art project and you are the materials that you get to splatter on the canvas and make something with. Then you can start to have more reverence and gratitude for the pieces that you were given.
Grace, you've been saying for the last few months, what a pleasure.
What a pleasure.
What a pleasure. Yeah. I would mention something challenging that happened and you'd say, what a pleasure. I've used this with other people, and told them about you.
Yeah.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure to get to have this challenge in this moment. What's the alternative? You're not here. You know, sort of like you don't want to turn 50. Well, what's the alternative? You're not alive, you know, then like celebrate being, you know, whatever, 50 or 40, however you, what a pleasure.
What a pleasure.
What a pleasure. You know, all the things that life is showing us and teaching us. You don't get to do that. You don't get to have that experience if you aren't living your life. You know, I mean, and if we can see everything as pleasurable, right? The learning, the living, the doing, the being, all of it, right? It's a nice way to go about living a life that does have its challenges, because you will have them, right? You welcome them. You know, Peter would always say, you know, you can react, you can respond, or you can create. Well, creating your life is loving it, right? Is choosing to love everything. Right. So in the middle of my divorce, when things were really hard and not very pleasant, right, I would just make this choice. I'm going to love this moment. And I learned something powerful, that I can love really hard things. I can do that. I can love unpleasant things. I can love days when I feel like shit. You know, what a pleasure to just have this life, this life, not the life I'm dreaming of, but this very life. Yeah. Go live a little, see what's out there for you. And then go talk to your therapist about it. Or call me. Right.
Yes.
And, you know, send me a DM and we'll have a chat about it.
Have you shared on the podcast yet about the coaching stuff?
Not on the podcast. No.
Maybe
I don't
make
think
a little
so.
note.
Make a little note.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to start coaching again.
So exciting.
Yeah, I am excited. You know, I've done a lot of it. And then I took a little break, and the podcast, I think, has really illuminated for me the desire I have to really support people in the way they need to be supported on more of an individual basis. You know, really create that container for what people might need. Yeah, and I'm excited about it. I'm very excited, actually. I love the chance to connect with the two of you. Yeah, so much of these learnings and realizations are made more real for me in the conversations that we have.
Agreed.
I mean,
So-
that's literally the whole theme of the episode. It's like we're all on our own individual healing journeys, but it's when we can be in group, be in community, be in real life is when it's like, oh yeah, I did pick up a lot of wisdom around that, or I do really understand that on a deep level, or wow, I can even talk about that, and that's going to help someone else, you know?
I think back to the episode we did at the end of the first season where we talked about everything that happened for each of us individually in that season, right? And what an experience that was.
I know.
It was
so
in
cool
the
to
doing.
see us all growing together.
All growing up.
Oh, so sweet.
All right.
And
Well,
oh,
all right. Well, until next time,
yeah.
Thank you.
Bye,
go get
guys.
after it.
Bye.
Bye.